Hello and welcome to another installment of Metallic Reviews, the show where I take an honest look at the harder, heavier side of music and give it an honest rating. Today, we're shifting gears rather dramatically once again to enter a realm of epicness, slowness, and really all-around heaviness. Yes, it's epic doom metal pioneers and legends Candlemass and their new album Sweet Evil Son, released November 18th on Napalm. Now, as I've said before, these guys are pioneers of the genre, and this is their 13th studio effort, and their third since signing to Napalm back in 2011. So how'd they do? Has age caught up with them? Let's find out. These, again, are legends, and they have every right to be called that. Their album Epicus Doomicus Metallicus laid the framework for what would become Epic Doom and influenced a ton of bands down through the years. Now that said, Sweet Evil Son is just an album that kind of exists. It's not quick enough to be interesting, but it's not slow or heavy enough. It doesn't really have the quirks to be fascinating. Somewhere in the middle, it kind of just lies there, basking in its own dullish nature. There are good things here and there were definitely good ideas going into the recording process. However, where other doom bands embrace things that make their music interesting despite its slower nature, this is a band that rides the coattails of the almighty riff. In many ways, especially with a band like Candlemass, that could be very, very good, but here they pay a little bit of a price for it. We'll get to that more in a bit, but first, some of the good stuff. The album is produced very well. The man at the helm is former live guitarist Marcus Jadell, who has also done a ton of production work as an active member of fellow Swedish doom musicians Avatarium. In fact, on that note, there's a whole heck of a lot of crossover between the two groups on this album. Avatarium's lead vocalist and, coincidentally, Jadell's wife, Jenny Ann Smith, makes a guest appearance, and the album's artwork was drawn by Eric Rovanpera, who has done a ton of work for both bands. So yeah, there's a ton of crossover, both on the record and off the record. Now, that doesn't make the album good or bad, but it is noting that Jadell has done very well at producing this album, and I would even go so far as to say Rovanpera came up with a pretty neat little album cover. It's a pretty good little album cover. In terms of songwriting, there are a ton of solid riffs on here. The title track, Black Butterfly, and Scandinavian Gods all have excellent ideas. Now, this is especially true on the latter of those three, which also holds the best chorus on the album. In fact, I'd go so far as to say that it's the most complete song here. Some tracks wander aimlessly in search of reviving some type of past glory, but Scandinavian Gods doesn't do that. It gets straight to the heart of things, and it rips up a ton of ground along the way. Now, Black Butterfly is a close second for me, featuring the most fully thought out ideas of any song over 5 minutes on here. Now, when it comes to instrumentation, I gotta give a lot of props to the drummer. Yeah, I'm biased because I am a drummer, but it really is probably the best performance on here. It's not a barn burner, but longtime Skinsman John Lind does present a solid session. There's good utilization of various parts of the kit, along with a tasteful use of double bass, which is something that's rare for an album with Doom slapped in front of it. There's also some groove on here, especially on the track Crucified, which is another one of my favorites. All in all, Lind has turned in a performance fitting of what the album seems to have been going for. Again, it's not going to set the world ablaze, but for what it was good. Now, for the not so good of the album. As a whole, this thing's kind of a snooze fest. I'm just going to be blatantly honest with you. This was kind of a slog to get through. Again, it lacks that punchiness and surprise-laden atmosphere that make a lot of Doom albums so foreboding, but also so much fun to listen to. While it is well-produced and parts of it are well-written, they seem to get to the end of one idea and not quite know where to go at the end. Then they get to another good idea, hum along for a minute, and fall flat all over again. It's all over the album. I'm not sure if it was a case of producer meddling or the band just couldn't come up with anything more, but it does make for a somewhat dull humdrum listen, with tracks that, again, wander very, very aimlessly at times. There's also a lot of issues in terms of the record's runtime and track placement. This is a nearly hour-long record, which is fine for anything with Doom in its genre title. However, the tracks aren't really spaced out well. You've got long and short that are kind of mixed up together a little bit, and then there's a marathon to the finish. In fact, the 2 sub 5-minute tracks on here, as good as they are, feel somewhat out of place. They feel like sudden stops on something that was supposed to be more. Again, I bring up that a lot of the ideas on here feel somewhat half thought out, and this is definitely one of them. But all in all, Candlemass have definitely released an album. It's about all I can say. They put out an album. Definitely not going to be album of the year contender, but all things considered, yeah, okay, I got to say it. It's probably one of the more boring albums I've heard. If you're looking for something full of ideas, then this is the album for you. Because it has good ideas, it has bad ideas, it has semi-ideas, full ideas, it has all the ideas. It has more ideas than a visionary, with absolutely none of the gusto or the excitement. When it's good, it's fun. When it's bad, it's boring. Simply put, it exists, and that's about the nicest thing I can say about it. It gets a 3 out of 5. Thanks so much for watching. Click like and don't forget to subscribe for more weekly Metallic reviews. Next week, we're going to be getting a little bit odd here on the old channel as we dive into psychedelic rock/metalers Elders' new release, Innate Passage. Also, I do want to let you know I have started the writing process on my top 10 worst albums of 2022. That will be coming out shortly. Also going to be doing the top 10 best of 2022. That will also be coming out before Christmas. So I hope you'll join me for all 3 of those things. You've been watching Metallic Reviews, where I give honest ratings to honest music, and I will see y'all next time.